myself to thee, to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. Release the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help to thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always.
Thank you. Smoking and vaping are allowed outside only. Bathrooms are located in the church. 21 Pathways is a faith over doubt based fellowship to help people navigate life's challenges, addictions, and struggles. 21 Pathways is community, and we do it together. The number 21 symbolizes two distinct paths converging into one. One path represents those in recovery, seeking spiritual guidance, and the other path is for those seeking to be equipped with the different successful steps we took in our recovery. Together, these paths will unite into one true pathway that leads to eternal salvation, healing, and redemption, the path to kingdom. Psalms 32:8. The Lord says, I will guide you along the best pathway for your life. I will advise you and watch over you. Our motto is, come as you are, leave changed. I've asked some volunteers to read the 12 Laws of Recovery, the Temptation from the Book of Matthew, and the 21 Pathways translation of the Beatitudes.
Hi, I'm Mia Sanders, and this is the 12 Laws of Life Recovery. 1. Powerlessness will result in strength. 2. Humility will result in honor. 3. Connection will result in love. 4. Willingness will result in growth. 5. Sacrifice will result in fulfillment. 6. Faith will result in hope. 7. Surrender will result in victory. 8. Service will result in reward. 9. Forgiveness will result in freedom. 10. Confessions will result in healing. 11. Restitution will result in closure. And 12. Responsibility will result in security.
My name is Quentin Canales, and I'm an addict, and today I'm going to read Matthew 4, the temptation of Jesus. Then Jesus was led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. After fasting for 40 days and 40 nights, he was hungry. The tempter came to him and said, If you are the Son of God, tell these stones to become bread. Jesus answered, It is written, Man shall not live on bread alone, but every word that comes from the mouth of God. Then the devil took him to the holy city and had him stand on the highest point of the temple. If you are the Son of God, he said, throw yourself down, for this is written. He will command his angels concerning you, and they will lift you up in their hands so that you will not strike your foot against a stone. Jesus answered, It is also written, Do not put the Lord your God to the test. Again, the devil took him to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world in their splendor. All of this I will give you, he said, if you bow down and worship me. Jesus said to him, Away from me, Satan, for it is written, Worship the Lord your God and serve him only. Then the devil left him, and the angels came and attended him.
Hi, I'm Rick Rock, and this is the 21 Pathways translation of the Beatitudes. Now, when the greatest teacher of all time saw the crowds, he went up to the mountainside and sat down. His students came to him, and he began to teach them. He said, Blessed are the underdogs, for they will have an unbelievable comeback story. Blessed are those who are sad, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, the gentle, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are those who forgive, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will be examples of goodness. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. Blessed are those who are hated on for doing the right thing, for they will thrive. Blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of your beliefs. Therefore rejoice, stand tall, because faithfulness is the reward.
This is an open meeting at 21 Pathways. All crowds are welcome. In keeping up with our purpose, passion, and gratitude, we ask all who participate to confine their discussion to 3 to 4 minutes or less on the topic or scripture at hand. Brian will be running the clock. At 21, we recognize how every number has a name, every name has a story, and every story matters to God.
So if you are online right now, and you're on Facebook or on YouTube, and you're out there in the world, and you are struggling, and you figured out a way to get on 21 Pathways. You have no idea why you're here, but you're struggling. There's this beautiful place called Touchstone Recovery Center. And if you are struggling, we want you to reach out to them. We put their number on there. So if you're online right now and you see the number on there, don't hesitate. Give it up for Touchstone, right? Yeah. So, first and foremost, I want to thank Bethany Church. I want to thank the leadership here at Bethany. I want to thank my guy, Pastor Brent. I want to thank the staff here. But what an amazing place this is. So blessed to be here. We're going to be getting into the book of Jude. Book of Jude, and on Sunday, if you... What's that?
Sorry.
Oh, yeah. So if you if you're looking for a church, you want to come. It's 10 o'clock on Sunday. So come check us out. What's that?
Sorry.
And then last, I want to thank 21 Pathways. What's up, 21 Pathways? Yeah. You know, we get a chance to be here at Bethany. I thought this is our 1-year anniversary. So yeah, pretty big deal. Yep. I want to go over some of the things that we've done here this last year real quick before we get started. So we have grown a lot. We started with 12 people and a couple of desks or a couple of tables, and now we've grown to, I think, anywhere between 60 to 120 people. Moving forward, just to let everyone know, we're going to be in here moving forward. Yep. We're going to be in here starting November 5th. This will be the room. We'll be able to take advantage of the cameras and the production in here. So again, thank you, Bethany, for allowing that to happen. We've done some pretty cool things. In the last 5 months on Instagram, we've grown up to close to 500 followers. We have over 29,000 views. On Facebook, we have over 300 followers, over 6,000 views. On TikTok, blown away by this, we have over 2,600 followers and over 227,000 views on TikTok alone, all spreading the word of God. And YouTube, 87 subscribers and over 22,000 views. So thanks to the people that are helping run our social media and everyone that's a part of that. We've also been a part of a lot of different types of panels at different recovery centers. My Time, where is Jill here? There she is, Jill. Thank you, Jill. Thank you, My Time, for letting us be part of that. Muirwood, Salvation Army, the Poverella House, First Steps, Touchstone, CAP, all the amazing recovery centers here in Fresno. We've been able to do some really cool things. Is Quentin here? That guy back there. Give it up for Q, yeah? Q, Quentin, yeah? Q. Yeah, Q's a big part of it. He throws a lot of parties here. He had a birthday party here over the summer when it was 150 degrees out. So thank you, Q. What a gift that was. We've been able to do, a lot of speaking engagements, Fresno City, Fresno State, Fresno Pacific. We'll be down south this winter and also over at Colorado State. We've been able to do some pop-up meetings, which are just kind of like off-the-wall kind of things. What we'll do is we'll go to a parking lot. We go to McDonald's, and we've had a couple of pop-up meetings over there in 115 degree heat out on that pavement. We've been able to do a cornhole, right? Is Julian and Mark here? Are they here? No? Okay, so Julian and Mark had this great idea, a big part of 21 Pathways. They wanted to throw a cornhole tournament, so we did a pop-up meeting at Mark's house. He allowed us to go over there and just destroy his house and have fun and just cook tons of food over there and have this amazing cornhole tournament. And what else? Speaking of Mark also created a connection with us with Costco, and we were able to deliver over 1,700 bottles of water over the summer to out there in Tent City. So, yeah, that's a big deal. Thank you, Mark. Yeah, give it up for Mark. 1,700 bottles of water. We've also been able to do over 600, I think twice now we've gone out there in the wintertime. And both times we've given out 200 pairs of socks, dry socks, to people of need. And one of the cool things we've been able to do is provide dinner for First Street Church, an amazing church over that supports recovery. And we've been able to give back to their pastors and their staff over there. So everyone that was involved with that, thank you very much. Yeah. And on top of all of it, one of the one things that I know here at 21 Pathways that all of us are proud of is we've been able to baptize over 28 people, right? Yeah. 28 people, and we got one coming. We already have one signed up for November 5th. Is Chad in here? There he is. My guy Chad's gonna get baptized. That's right. So I hope you can hold your breath, Chad. That's it. You probably need to be held underwater for a while, right? So yeah, we've been able to do some really cool things. Some of the goals that we have for 2025, obviously we want to continue to grow our relationships with the various recovery centers throughout California, continue to grow our community both in here and out there and online, and more importantly and above all, we want to continue making God at the center of all of our relationships. Yeah, that's right. And then, a lot of people ask, if you're new in here, what is 21 Pathways? Well, it's this crazy plane that God's flying, right? And we're just on board and we're just enjoying the ride. But ultimately what we're doing is we're a community. 21 Pathways is a community that results in agape love, where we use service as the bridge. And agape love is this sacrificial, unconditional love where we want nothing in return. And we've learned that you have to find a community of people that you can trust, and 21 Pathways is that. And what we do over there is we walk through our hurts, habits, and hang-ups together. And it's something that I'm really proud of. I'm really proud of all the leaders over there, and it's been a blessing. It really is. And I'm going to steal this from my pastor Brent. 21 Pathways is a hospital, right? It's not a hotel. We tell people to come as you are and that you'll leave changed. We take scripture and stories from the Bible and we relate them to our stories of recovery. And it's kind of like what we're going to be doing here tonight with Tony. We're going to go through the book of Exodus. Every number has a name, every name has a story, and every story matters to God. And is Tweety in here? Where's he at? There he is. So, one of the coolest things that happened this past year was I had some friends. We were cleaning up the softball tournament that we had, and they found this picture. And you'll have to go online to figure it out, but to put the puzzle together. But come to find out, it was Tweety's brother, and we ended up having Tweety and his family up here giving the testimony and sharing the story of Bobby Huff. And Michael and I were on the phone today, and moving forward next year at our memorial game, it's gonna be called the Bobby Huff Memorial Softball Tournament. So give it up for talk about a story, right? A story that matters. So thank you for that, man. No, thank you. Just like we talked about how the stories of the Bible, how we relate them to our recovery. So one of the ways that we've done it in the book of Matthew. Book of Matthew opens up with the genealogy of Jesus. And so what we've done is we've taken that map and we've figure out a way how we all got to where we're at here today, right? How we all ended up here, because every one of us has a name, every one of us has a story, and every one of us, our story matters to God. And I thought maybe I would share that story about how Tony and I met, and before we get into Exodus. So when I was going through it, I had just gotten back from Bakersfield, where I did my detox and my IOP and OUP and all that stuff, and I did it in Bakersfield, California, in a hotel room. And I got back in town. Well, long story short, a friend of mine, he knew I was going through it, and he gave me a phone number. He sent me a text of 3 people. And he sent me Mike R., Mike Z., and Tony R. And he said if I was willing to give somebody a call. And that's what I did. I shot this guy, Tony, a text. And, because his name wasn't Mike, right? And I reached out to this guy, Tony. And what Tony did for me is he saved my life. He pretty much handed me the keys to the recovery world. And he taught me what suggestion was and willingness. And he taught me some amazing things, right? He taught me how to get healthy. And one of the first conversations that Tony and I had was, I was going through it, and I'll never forget this. We were just talking about it. And I hadn't seen a doctor in a long time, and I had just, like I said, I mean, I'm probably like 6-7 days sober, just really going through it, really hurting. And I was telling Tony about how I was going to the doctor. And so he says to me, he said, well, when you get there, you have your wife, right? He said, you make sure your wife goes with you.
Yep.
And I was like, well, what does my wife need to go? Why does he, you know? And then I was thinking, well, maybe I don't want her to go because maybe he will give me some drugs, right? Maybe that's what he's kind of getting at. But it didn't feel right. So I remember telling Kristen, I said, Kristen, for some reason, Tony wants you to go. And she's like, I'm going, right? That wasn't even like, it was a no-brainer for her. So we go to the doctor, and sure enough, and our doctor's a family friend. He's an amazing person. And we told him the truth about everything. And he knew I was going through it. He knew I was struggling sleeping. And so he tried to give me a prescription to help me sleep. And Tony was like, hey, he's going to try to give you something. You have your wife go, and you just say no. And I'll never forget looking at Kristen, and her eyes lit up, and she was like, no, we're not taking any prescriptions. We're not doing any of this. And it was from that moment on, I knew my wife had trusted Tony. I trusted Tony, and we kind of just built this friendship where Tony just kind of became my mentor. He became this person in my life that just always answered the phone. He always picked up the phone. He always had kind words for me. Introduced me to, like I said, he introduced me to everybody. And it got to the point where, he introduced me to this guy named Kyle. And Kyle and I started working the steps. And before you know it, I'm going through this book, and I'm seeing the word God highlighted, a bunch of times. And before you know it, I'm seeing the phrase, faith without works is dead. And before you know it, I'm starting to connect the dots. And I'm looking up, what is this, Lord's Prayer? Like, what is this? Lord's Prayer. And before you know it, I started to see some amazing things that started happening in this place called Heroin Anonymous that our good buddy Steve created. And I'll never forget, there was 5 people. My first day I ever went there, and before you know it, I'm starting to see how God is working in people. And I'm starting to watch how God is so amazing, and how he's turning people's lives around, and how he's having this huge impact in their lives. And I wanted a part of it. And it all came from this suggestion that this guy named Tony R gave me. And before you know it, I am at this recovery summit, and before you know it, I'm going through this book, Exodus, and I'm learning about this dude named Moses. And before you know it, I'm in Israel, and I'm walking this path with this guy named Pastor Brent, and this guy named Pastor Joe, and this guy named Rob, and we're in the Sea of Galilee. And before you know it, I'm in this. I'm starting to really, really connect the dots. And long story short, right? Here we are today, right? Long story short.
Yeah.
And I'm so blessed, right? And Tony and I have gone through, the book of Matthew. We've gone through Galatians. We every time we go through a subject at 21 Pathways, I kind of run it by him, and we'll have a cup of coffee. We have a cup of coffee once a week, and we just talk. And we just go over, life. And we take our experiences, and we look at them from a different perspective. And that's what he's taught me. He's taught me perspective over perception. And come to find out, right? I asked Tony, I said, there's no other person I'd rather have on our 1 year. And come to find out, today's his birthday, by the way. So we give it up for Tony, right? Wild. I had to throw that out there and embarrass him. I had to put that out there. But, you know, and I'm going to get into Exodus real quick here, and we're going to get started. But thank you. Thank you for everything.
Thank you.
No, thank you for everything. And I want to say on behalf of, you know, everyone that's here today, you're all part of my journey, every single one of you. And I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for every single one of you that's in this room. And I'm so blessed. You know, God sends us on a journey that, you know, we didn't think we needed, but only to give us everything we've ever wanted. And recovery has given me all of that. So I'm so very thankful. Thank you everyone. Thank you to everyone that's here. So let's get into Exodus real quick. So we're just going to go through it. You know, it's a very large book, right? So I can't cover everything. But this guy named Moses, right? Do we have a picture of Moses, Kristen? There he is, right? This crazy dude, Moses. What an amazing person this guy is. So Moses and his peoples, they are slaves to this crazy dude Pharaoh in Egypt. And Moses and his people, they're slaves and they're powerless, right? And they have, and one day they decide they're going to free themselves. So they do. They free themselves. They take this leap of faith across the Red Sea. They take this path, and then before you know it, they are in the desert. And we've spoken about this. You guys are getting the short version here. And before you know it, they are in the desert. And we relate the desert and sobriety. The desert and sobriety is kind of like the same thing, right? The desert's hard living. It's hot. It's dry. You have to find shelter. You have to find food. You have to survive. In recovery and sobriety, you got to do the same thing. And there comes a point when they're tested out there in the desert. They're tested a few times. And one of my favorite stories, and kind of how, 21 was even kind of created, in the book of Numbers, chapter 21, there comes a point when Moses and his people, they're in the desert. Well, they start complaining. They start to think, it was a lot better when I was a slave, right? And they go to Moses, and they're like, it's a lot better. And then at that point, all these snakes out of nowhere started biting all of Moses' peoples. And they started biting everyone, and everyone started disappearing, right? And they started dying, kind of like the rooms of recovery, right? People disappear, people pass on. And so they were like, man, it was way better to be a slave. And they go to Moses. They're like, Moses, like, dude, like, this sucks. We're dying. These snakes are biting us. Like, tell your God to get rid of these snakes. So Moses goes to God, and he prays, and God tells him, he says, go get this, go make this bronze head, this snake head out of bronze. And what you do is you take this big old snake head that you make out of bronze, and you take your staff, and you put your staff in the ground, and then you put that bronze head on top of that staff. And God tells Moses, you tell your people that if they want to survive, to look that bronze snake in the eye, right? And they'll survive. And, we look at that as, we have to face snakes every day in sobriety, right? In life, we have to face, snakes are going to cross our paths. And the only way to overcome those fears, those doubts, those snakes, is to take them head on, right? And so easily do we want to just brush those snakes under the doormat. So easily do we want to just, like, go get numb, right? That's, like, the easy thing to do. And, that's what Moses told his people to do, and that's what they did. And that's kind of what recovery is about. And tonight we're going to get into Tony's story, Tony's testimony, and I'm going to be kind of guiding him through it. But, Tony, why don't you take over from here and just tell everyone how you became a slave to heroin and the choices that you made that got you to Egypt.
Of course, my name is Tony. I am a recovered heroin addict.
What's up, Tony?
Grateful to be here in a meeting with you, my friend, who I love very much. Exodus is a wonderful story. Part of the way the Israelites got into Egypt, before they became slaves, they voluntarily went there. They had a need. There was famine in the land, and God had told them that I'm going to take care of you. I want you to be fruitful and multiply, and I've got a land for you, I promise. But they took off and went to Egypt, and because they needed to. They had to. And I was, in my life, I liked to, when I was young, I liked to smoke, I liked to drink, I liked to do a little cocaine. I liked to do party drugs. It felt good. I liked it. And I went to my Egypt. I just went. I went like they went, and I was there for a while. And the longer I stayed, and it's the same with Israel. They went and they started to become powerful, and Pharaoh recognized that they were becoming powerful, and he decided, we got to start taking these people out. He started killing their young boys, and he started taking them apart, and he enslaved them. And that's what heroin did to me. And I was addicted early on. I started trying to get sober in 1993. I didn't show up in Alcoholics Anonymous until 2016.
Tell us, just how bad it was. Like, tell us a quick story about just how heroin just completely owned you. I know back there we were talking about how I was a slave to heroin, and how I remember waking up in the morning and trying to remember what pocket the heroin was in, right? As I laid next to my wife, putting on this act like, okay, so what are you going to do today? Meanwhile, in the back of my head, I'm trying to figure out, how I'm going to get that heroin, what pocket I put it in, how bad of a slave were you to heroin?
Yeah, I was completely owned. I remember many times, but I remember early on, and I'm sure many people can relate to this with whatever they were, whatever drug of choice or alcohol, whatever it was that you were into early on. I remember when I first discovered heroin, and I was sitting alone in a truck in the middle of this area in Bakersfield, and I was getting high, and I was thinking to myself, this is the best. I love this so much. I can't believe, really, I thought to myself, I can't believe everyone isn't doing this right now.
Right?
Everyone. And I loved it like that for a long, long, long time. And at that point, I had a home and a business, and life was moving along financially on the surface. It looked all right. But, let's say that was 2008, 2009. Fast forward to 2016. Oh, it chokes me up. I'm at my mom's house, and I'm doing what you did. I'm looking for it. So for me, I got to go to Bakersfield every other day, and I got to get enough to bring back for 2 days. And I'm driving. The drive there is, we talked about it tonight, the drive there is, I'm driving as fast as I can. I could care less who's in the way.
Right.
I got to get there, and when I get there, they better be ready for me, because I need what I came to get. And
we don't care who we're going to hurt.
Manic and crazy. And the drive back is like, here we go. I'm ready to go. Let's get home. And I remember the day that, for me, I drove home, and I was thinking to myself, I'm so set for the next couple days. I got everything I need. I'm going to go home. I'm going to go do what I do. And I walked in the house, and I was just kind of happy, and my mom was home for lunch, or had came home for lunch from work that day, and she looked at me and probably saw that picture that back there, but saw those eyes, that we get. And she was like, oh, no, you're not.
So
You're not going to do this another day in this house. And so then it's up. Those eyes. Look at those eyes. That is a mess. So that's what she saw. That's what she saw, were those eyes. And we wear it. And I thought I was hiding it so well, but I wasn't. So the jig was up. I went from thinking everybody in the world should have it when I was down in Bakersfield, and this is the greatest thing ever, and my life is complete now that I've found this wonderful drug, to my mom telling me I got to get out. That's how it enslaved me. That was Egypt for me. I was enslaved. And then I love what what they talk about in Exodus. What happens is they start to murmur, and then they cry out, and then God says, okay, I'll help you. I'll get you out of there.
Yeah,
I got
they
a
asked,
plan.
yep, they asked for deliverance. So then, they set themselves free. And then, so what happens? What was the moment in your life where, okay, I'm, what was the low point where you realized I'm so broken, I need help, and I'm ready to make a change?
Well, if it wasn't that day, it was all the days around that day. And there was many days before that. I had to go to jail for a year. I'd gotten a whole bunch of trouble with the law. I'd lost everything. My kids were displaced. I'm at Mom's. So just that path from sitting in the truck thinking this is the best thing that's ever happened to that moment, there was lots of chaos in there and lots of low points, but that must have been it, because ultimately what I knew at that point was she was done. And she was the last house on the block. There was no place for me to go. I could have gone and slept in my truck, I guess. That was next up.
Right.
But it was done at that point.
So you are broken, and you decided that you need to make a change. What do you do, and where do you go, and who do you call, and where do you end up?
I don't know if I decided I was going to make a change, but I did tell her I was going to stop. So for me, what I, intuitively, I've always known. I started trying to get sober in 1993, and I've stayed sober for a year. And then I began the relapse, get sober thing, and I did that all the way through 2016. But every time I would stop and come to the end, I just intuitively knew I needed to be at a place like this. I had to go to a church. So I would run back to church. Well, I was done doing that. I had tried it so many times, I was done doing it. And so I was thinking, I got in my truck and I left the house, and I thought, I've got to do something, go to a meeting. I was thinking maybe Celebrate Recovery, I'm not sure. But I ended up back here at North Park. I don't even know how I got there, but I was there in a meeting. I don't know if it was a noon or a 6:30 meeting. I couldn't tell you today. But I ended up back there.
So you end up back there, and what was that like? What was
Well, there's a bunch of alcoholics in
right
there talking
yeah.
about.
So they don't know anything that you're going through, right?
Yeah, they're first of all, they're way too freaking happy. I mean, and they see me and they're like, "Hey, what do you do? What's your name? How are you doing?" And I am not doing good. There is nothing
Legs
good
are
about,
hurting. Struggling.
going through it.
Yeah.
And I remember Ralph. If any of you go back there, Big Ralph. He just greeted me so kindly every time I came in. And see, that what doesn't match up when that's happening, at least for me, my experience was, everyone back there at that room, Alcoholics Anonymous, was saying, "I'm happy to see you keep coming back. How you doing? We're glad you're here." But the way I felt about myself, I felt like I didn't deserve any of that. Like, what are they trying to do?
Yeah.
Like, there's no way, like, even the hugs and stuff, I was like, oh my gosh, if they only knew what was going on with me.
Yeah. So you end up at North Park thinking it's Celebrate Recovery, and you meet some wonderful people, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You meet some wonderful people that you call family, a place that you call home. And what did you end up finding a sponsor? I know you met what's your sponsor's name? Thomas. When did you meet Thomas, and talk about that?
Two things happened. Well, let's cover three specific things that happened when I was in North Park. One is I was going to meetings, right on time. Like if they started at 12 or 6:30, I was getting there at 12:03 or 6:35, and slinking in and getting a spot. And then I'd sit through the prayer to the end, but then I'm boogieing, man. I don't want another hug, and I don't want to talk to any of you guys. But something about what was going on in there was like I was looking forward to going back. And I was leaving the 12 o'clock meeting, going home to Mom's, going through it because I'm still kicking, and then anticipating the fact that I'm going to get to go back to that meeting. And one of the things that happened was I was sitting in a meeting one day, and my mind was doing what it's always done, and it was just the craziness of thought was just running crazy. Like, what are they talking about? What do they mean? Higher power, what's going on with this? Oh my God, this God stuff. Oh my God, that girl's cute. Just everything, just running. And I'm sitting back by the refrigerator, and I just had a moment like where it just stopped. And it hadn't stopped since I was getting high, So once I stopped getting high, that's what used to help me so much, because it would stop all the thinking, and I would just go, okay, I can do this. but it happened for me in that room. So that was the first thing, and it didn't last long, and I'm not quite sure what was said or what they were saying, but I just know that I felt peace, I felt presence, I felt like I felt attracted to that moment that I experienced, and it wasn't anything super crazy, it was just really super peaceful, and that was cool. So then in the next meeting or two, it was lunchtime, and it was 1 o'clock, and they prayed, and I went running out the door, and this guy named Bruce P., this old, cranky old man, came following me outside, and he said, "Where are you going?" And I'm got my back to him, and I'm like, I got to go, man. I got things. I'm busy right now. I'm gonna go drive somewhere, and he said, "No, you're not. Get in your truck. Follow me. We're gonna have some coffee." And so that was when, I had got the hugs and the handshakes and the talks. But here's somebody who said, outside of the 12 to 1, outside of the 6:30 to 7:30. He chased me down. And then it wasn't too long after that I was, maybe a day or two. It kind of went bang, bang for me, but within a day or two, I was home in between meetings, and I was going through it, man. It was up. Like, it was time for me to just shut my brain off, and the only way I knew how to do it was to get high, and I didn't want to get high, and I had this stack of phone numbers on my dresser, and I just did what you did. I just decided, all right, I'm going to give it a shot. And I started calling, and Thomas picked up.
And how long have you known Thomas now?
Since August of 2016.
And what's your guys' relationship like?
Yeah, he's taught me so much. He's shown me so much. I can't really say he's taught me much. I don't think that's fair to say. What he's done is he's shown me what you were talking about at the beginning. He's shown me a path. Right?
Right.
So I don't know how much we want to do with Exodus, but they say they're going to go out, they're going to go meet God, right. And then they leave, and so I'm leaving Exodus, and I'm on the path, and I'm heading out, and all of a sudden I run into this Red Sea, right. Like this insurmountable crossing.
And you got it chasing you. You got this.
Yeah, and then here they come, and I'm starting to murmur and think that there's no way I can't do this.
Right.
And then Bruce chases me out. I have that moment of clarity in the room. I talk to Thomas. The sea kind of opens up for me a little bit. So I'm getting closer. I'm headed towards something different.
You're taking this leap of faith.
I'm taking the leap of faith, but I'm also doing exactly what they were doing when they were in the wilderness and they couldn't see what Moses was up to, or they wouldn't get the right direction, and they weren't hearing what they wanted to hear, which was my experience. Like, somebody needs to come and help me. Like, when I got to Alcoholics Anonymous and hung out for a little bit, I was telling Brian earlier, look, I need a hug and I need a loan. Like, let's just... If we could start with those things, hugging alone, right. Maybe I can get my life back on track.
Yeah, but you had to surrender, right? You had to figure out a way to let go, and Tony couldn't be in control. Something greater had to be in control.
Yeah, I just couldn't do it anymore. I was at the point of surrender.
Right.
I really, truly was at the point of surrender. Like, I was out of good ideas. And I was recognizing that something was happening, like Bruce and that moment, and then meeting Thomas and then spending time with him and recognizing that he didn't have any kind of axe to grind or really any direction to give. Really, it was like, if you want to do what I did, get one of these and come over to my house and we'll read it and we'll talk about it.
So you surrender, you start working with Thomas, and you start going through the book, and you start to learn, right? Yep. You start to learn these principles and these foundations, and you start to apply them in your life. And then now you're in the desert. And desert living, it's not easy, right? Let's talk about some of those fears and doubts that come across our way in sobriety, and how important is community, and how important it is to be with a group of people to help you walk through it, to help you overcome the situations that you're in.
There's key moments for sure. That one of the things that Thomas said to me early on was, you don't have to tell me the truth if you don't want to. It's up to you, but you need to find one man that you tell everything to.
Right.
And you don't hide anything from. And I heard him when he said that. And then as we started reading that book is full of some, beautiful beautiful direction for me. It started to change my life and soften my heart. And he taught me some simple prayers, and we kept it real simple. I went to a lot of meetings. And because I wasn't working, and as we met for a couple weeks in a row, and then he said, if you want, we can meet twice a week if you're that willing. And I said, yeah, let's do it. And little did I know at the time, I didn't know Thomas that well at that point. He had just had a long-term girlfriend who was one of us go back out and commit suicide.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so he's like going through it, just going through it. And the solution for him, he intuitively knew, is I got to find somebody to work with.
Right.
I got to hang out with somebody who needs some direction and maybe a little bit of hope, and I'll show him how I did it, and maybe it'll work for him too.
Service, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And let's talk about how, we say it all the time, how community results in that agape love, but the bridge between agape love, that unconditional sacrificial love, is service. Explain to everyone how would you describe service and how important service is in the world of recovery?
There's a simple line at the top of page 20 in the big book that says, our very lives as ex-problem drinkers depends on our constant thought of others and how we can better help meet their needs. And if you read that book with somebody and you just read past that real quick, that could just be a sentence in your life that you said with your mouth. But if you pause on that for just a second, if my very life depends on my constant thought of you and how I can better help meet your needs, and that's what the theme of this book is. It's not about me, it's about you. And that's what Bruce showed me. That's what Ralph showed me. That's what Mike showed me. That's what Thomas showed me. So they're showing me, and I'm not really getting the message at first. It took some time, but as we started digging around in that, yeah, it was showing up.
Do you remember some of the first parts of service that you got into?
I do remember a couple things. I remember one day being in a noon meeting and feeling pretty comfortable. Probably was about 3 or 4 months sober, and I had chaired a few meetings, maybe 5 or 10, I'm not sure, but I had chaired quite a few, and I was becoming part of the group, and I was feeling pretty comfortable. And I came into a meeting, and somebody, the secretary, said, "Hey, would you like to chair today?" And I was like, and I never want to, of course, and I was sitting with this guy, Greg, and I just was like, "Can you ask Greg to do it?" And she said, "Yeah." And then she asked Greg, and Greg said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Hey, man, I don't know what kind of program you're doing, but when you're asked to do that, you say yes." And I was like, ugh. But I heard it. And that's the kind of stuff you got to just go through. You just have to, you're not going to know that. You're not going to know what that is until you walk through what that is. You know what I mean?
So then something happens, right? In your recovery, you decide to take a trip to San Francisco.
Man, I did. I had over 3 years sober at this point. I had guys that I was working with.
You were doing service.
I was doing service. I had worked through up into the 9th step. When I got sober, I had a warrant out for my arrest, and I needed to go to jail, so I had to go to jail sober. I was over a year sober, and I went to jail, and I had sponsees. My guy Blair's here. Yeah, Blair, exactly. I love him so much, man. He's just the best. So, yeah, things were. I was feeling good. Like, I did the jail thing. I got it behind me. I did that part. I made some amends that I needed to make. And anyway, yeah, we went to San Francisco one day. My son lives up there. I got a buddy up there, and I was going to a meeting. That's what I do when I go to San Francisco. I go to a meeting. And my buddy Johnny lives up there, and he had a key to his apartment because we've known each other forever. And so the plan was go to the apartment, drop my stuff, run over to Dry Dock, and get a meeting in real quick. And I got into John's apartment, and I dropped my stuff, and I had 20 minutes to walk down the street and catch the meeting, and the thought crossed my mind, I'm going to just look in the medicine cabinet real quick. And I'm doing all the stuff. I'm thinking at this point, I'm doing everything I need to do to stay sober. So, and I know what's in the medicine cabinet. Right. John and I have talked about it. He knew where I was at in my life, and I went in and started digging around, and I pulled something up, and I put it in my hand, and I thought, there's no way this can hurt me. It's not opiates. It's not Oxy, which was in there. I looked at the Oxy and was like, oh, I can't do that. There's no way I could do that. That would be, but I picked up a Xanax and I thought, I don't even think I've ever taken a Xanax before. What is this? How could this be a thing?
Walk in the park.
Yeah, I'm tired. I've been on the road all day. I'm going to go to a meeting. I'll probably just chill out. It'll be cool, no big deal. And then I thought, this is probably a bad idea. And then I popped it, and it hit the back of my throat and dropped. And I was like, oh, man, 3+ years. Like all those things just show up just like that. And I ran out the door to that meeting. I went down to that meeting and Dry Docks, and there was like 6 people in there. And I sat there, and within 20 minutes, 30 minutes, it was on.
Yeah.
It was on. I was going through it, and that turned into a 3 or 4 day blackout. If I looked at the dates, I could figure it out for sure, but I ended up going back to that medicine cabinet and emptying it out and taking it all with me.
Yep, because that's what we do.
Yep.
So you go on that 3-4 day run. What happens after that? And I'm going to give away the answer here, but you have the courage, though. You have the courage to go back into the room.
Yeah, I mean, I had the courage. It was painful. I was with my wife. We were just dating then, and I'm a sloppy drug addict, I guess. I dropped some drugs at some point. I'm not sure, but she woke me up because I was taking the world's best nap at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a sunny day, and was like, what? And yeah, it just, and I know, and when you're one of us, you guys all know what I'm talking about. When that moment shows up where they're like, and they show you, and you already know, you're just hiding from the thought that moment's going to happen, but you know it's going to happen, and then it happens. And yeah, I went back. I had such a strong community around me at that point, and my mom, my family, and Thomas and Blair and all the guys
North
that
Park.
I sponsored, and Mike R, and it's just these people that love me so much, and they were like, just come on, let's go back. And I did, and I went back and I sat in there and I cried, and I just felt sorry for myself, and I felt I'm so shameful.
Yeah.
And, that's those thoughts, like you were never going to make it. You weren't going to make it.
And I commend you for that. I've had the opportunity to see one of my good buddies go through the exact same thing. Jared, right? And I remember when Jared, it was over at Primary Purpose, and Jared stood up and he took that chip, and I looked at Q and I was like, what's he doing? And to have the courage, man, to just get back in that room and get back on the horse, and to fall on that sword, to swallow that pride, the humility, right? The humility, and to go through that. Thank God we're alive.
Yeah, amen.
Thank God we're alive. And so you get back in the room. Everyone's encouraging you, and tell everyone what your sobriety date is.
It's December 4, 2019.
So we're on 4 years.
Coming up on 5 years.
Coming up on 5 years. Give it up for 5 years, right? 5 years. So Tony starts over. So you get back in the room and tell us what happens, since then. Like what's, you're coming up on 5 years. Tell us how amazing sobriety is. Tell us how amazing recovery is.
Well, first of all, what I need to say is that at that time when the relapse happened, it felt like it completely caught me off guard. And so having a sponsor and meeting and talking about what happened was super helpful, because I needed to identify, what was going on. This book says that lack of power is my dilemma. I needed to find a power by which I could live. I need a sufficient substitute for drugs and alcohol. And I thought I had it. I'm going to San Francisco, and I'm going to a meeting, and life's good, and I've got it. So why did I get high? So we had to do some work to figure out what was going on. So a couple things. I had some secrets.
Yeah.
I had some things that I just didn't tell people. This is my stuff. I'll keep it. I'll figure. I'm fine. This isn't going to hurt me here, and I'll be fine. And also after I did had to go back and spend that time in jail and did that really difficult thing, I wasn't so. I just kind of paused on cleaning up the past. I had a stepdad that I hadn't seen in years, and I just kept putting it off. Like, I'll get to it. I'll get to it. I'll get to it. And I got high. And I'll tell you, because we kind of identified that as being one of the things, I was sitting in front of my stepdad, his name's Joe, on his couch probably within a week or maybe 2 at the most of that relapse. And I'll never forget, man, it was just like that moment with Greg where he said that, I don't know what kind of program you're doing, but my dad, who's 83 years old, basically told me the same thing. He said, I've been hearing about you sober. Where you been? You've been sober since 2016? And now you're here? But that's the stuff, man. That's the stuff I was burying. Like, I got to just not think about that, you know? I'm not going to think about it. I'm not going to think about it. I'm going to run to a meeting. You can get lost in recovery here, too, and get high.
In the middle of the Beatitudes, blessed are those who have a thirst and hunger for righteousness, for they will be filled. And the Beatitude right after that is, blessed are the merciful, for they'll be shown mercy. To have a thirst and hunger for righteousness is shown through a life of mercy, is shown through a life of forgiveness. A life of self-control is shown through a life of forgiveness. You had to forgive yourself. You had to forgive. You had to figure out a way to let all that go. How important is the word forgiveness to you?
Yeah, I love the word forgiveness. And here's the way I try to apply the word forgiveness today. Forgiveness of this moment for being exactly what it is. Because my resistance to what's happening is always what's causing me pain. And whatever's playing out, if I'm in unforgiveness of what's happening as it's happening, then I'm in trouble. Because then I start to create a story in my mind about how this isn't going to work for me. Somebody needs to do something different and treat me different so I can feel okay about myself. So the practice for me with forgiveness is acceptance. Nice. It's surrender, really, is what it is. It's surrendering and allowing what is to be what it is. And it's not easy. Man, come on. If that was easy... But that's the practice. That's what forgiveness looks like for me. It's surrender. Forgiveness is surrender.
What is, and we're coming up here, what are the things that you practice in your sobriety today? What are the things that you work with your sponsees, and what are some of the things that you teach them? And then not only what are the things that you practice, but how do you practice them?
Well, one of the steps that we have in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, or any 12-step program, is step 11. And it says in step 11 that we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God, praying only for knowledge of His will and the power to carry it out. And for me, I'm not a prayer-heavy guy, but I'm a meditative-heavy guy. Like, I don't really have much to say, but I feel like if I can get real quiet and, again, shut this thing off and get present, that I can feel presence. That's the way it seems to me. If I'm talking about it and trying to verbalize it, a lot of times it's just resistance that's happening in that moment. So,
and what's your relationship with your family now?
It's so great, man. Look at that.
Right? That's the gift right there. That is the gift.
Yep.
Well, let's give it up for Tony for an amazing meeting. Before we wrap it up here, is there anything that you'd like to say? How would you got the mic, is there something that you want to maybe tell the newcomer? What's the message of the day, Tony?
If it was for the newcomer, I would tell you that we don't feel about you the way you feel about you. We don't. And for everybody else, man, I love being a part of this community. I love you. You've been so helpful to me, and it's not about me and you and teaching. It's about me and you and just spending time together and talking about how we're doing life. And I love that so much. That's the beautiful part of our relationship.
We're blessed.
Absolutely.
We're blessed. Again, let's give it up for Tony.
Read earlier, we were given a blueprint for success. How do we bring light out of darkness? There is a solution. Jesus models what it looks like to bring order out of chaos. When he is a test of heart, he responds, "It is written," which is another way of saying it is in the Word. and Jesus has the word in him. Not only does Jesus know the path, but he walks the path correct. Not only does Jesus know the story of God, he trusts the story of God, and we see him doing that precisely in the story of temptation. What would happen this week if you had a test of heart? Would you know the word? Would you trust the word? As we walk together, just as Jesus walked the path, we equip ourselves with the profound wisdom of Scripture. So next time temptation or challenge confronts us, we stand resilient, declaring with conviction, it is written. Know the word, trust the word. Know the story, trust the story. Know the path, walk the path. God has a plan, we just need to trust it. It was written.
Thank you, Alyssa.
Hi, my name is Carol, and I'm reading Titus 3:3-7.
Hi, Carol.
At one time we too were foolish, disobedient, deceived, and enslaved by all kinds of passions and pleasures. We lived in malice and envy, being hated and hating one another. But when the kindness and love of God, our Savior, appeared, he saved us, not because of righteous things we had done, but because of his mercy. He saved us through the washing of rebirth and renewal by the Holy Spirit, whom he poured out on us generously through Christ our Savior, so that having been justified by his grace, we might become heirs, having the hope of eternal life.
Thank you, Carol. Yeah, if you guys get a chance, check out our website, 21pathways.org. Next week we will not be in here, but the following week, November 5th, we'll be back in here. Moving forward, we'll forever be in this room. Next weekend, real quick, is we're having the softball tournament, this Higher Power, Higher Purpose men's retreat. Is Sal here? Where's Sal at? There he is. My guy Sal back here is the head honcho of this, major pillar in the world of recovery here in Fresno. But we're having the softball tournament out here. It's 4 teams: Fentanyl Anonymous, Heroin Anonymous, and Cocaine Anonymous is joined one team, which is pretty much a fellowship from First Street Church, and they're playing the Big Book Trudgers, and then 21 Pathways is playing First Steps, and it's kind of like a playoff. We do a lot of softball events out here, but what we're trying to do is raise awareness for this men's retreat. And we're going to be barbecuing out there. And so far, we've raised up to 14 scholarships, which is pretty cool. Yeah. So what we're trying to do is just raise awareness and raise some scholarships for the newcomer who is looking to be a part of community. And that men's retreat takes place on March 25th. So if you'd like to be a part of it or would like to get connected to it, Quentin back here has some information over in the booth. And he'll get you connected that way. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. We have some sweatshirts back here that we are going to be selling, and it's going straight to our .org here. And so if it's something you want to do, check them out. We've been kind of posting them online. They're pretty cool. And last but not least, what we'll do is we're going to get out of here with the Lord's Prayer. Yeah? You okay with that one?
Absolutely.
All right, so would you guys join me? Who brought us together here tonight? Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from all evil. Thine is the kingdom, power, and glory forever. Amen. Trust God, put in work. Thank you, guys.
Sorry I messed you up at the beginning. I wasn't paying attention. You said June.